So on today for TFC Reviews, we have something really special. We have my own vehicle, a 2022 Toyota 4Runner TRD Off-Road Premium. So I love my 4Runner, so I'm so excited to be able to show it to you guys today, and why I actually ended up purchasing one, and what makes a 4Runner such a great vehicle, at least for some. So you got that TRD off-road badging there on the side. Stepping around back here, as we showed a little bit earlier, one of those features that is really truly unique to the 4Runner, that power rear glass that can go up and down either from the back there or actually from the interior. And yeah, stepping around front, I chose a white 4Runner because, well, you know, I like it. Gives me kind of that Stormtrooper Star Wars vibe a little bit. So going to go ahead and show you guys the inside. So stepping up in to my 2022 4Runner. And as I said, it's a great place to be. I love it. I wouldn't have bought it if I didn't. Let's get into it. So the Toyota 4Runner. So as I mentioned, this is my own personal vehicle, but let's first get into what is a Toyota 4Runner. So Toyota 4Runner, it is a mid-size SUV body on frame. A little bit of a dinosaur these days. You don't see that many body on frame SUVs anymore. Everything's pretty much gone to what they call a unibody, more car-based. Drives a little bit better, you know, than these truck-based body on frame SUVs. But what you do get with a Toyota 4Runner, and what they've been known for the decades that they've been in market, is their ruggedness, their reliability, their durability, and their utility. And so all of those reasons, all the above and more, are reasons why I drive one as a daily driver, and have actually had one for the last 12-ish, 13, somewhere around there years. And this is actually my second Toyota 4Runner. I had a 4th gen Toyota 4Runner with the V8, which unfortunately they do not include the V8 in 4Runners anymore. But, the 6-cylinder is fine. So let's go ahead and get into it a bit. So Toyota 4Runners, they've been around since the 80s. I believe they came out around in 83. And with that, they were essentially a compact pickup truck with basically a fiberglass shell, camper shell, whatever you want to call it, over the bed. And they stuck a small bench seat in the back and called it a day. And that was the SUV of the 1980s. So you saw a lot of this from, you saw that with Ford with their Broncos, Chevy with their big Blazers, Ram Chargers, and yeah, so that's basically what they did in the early 80s and even throughout the 80s, for these new vehicles entering the marketplace. Didn't really know what the market would like, if they wanted more truckiness and ruggedness and trying to keep those qualities shining through, or eventually, as the market kind of dictated, and once that Ford Explorer actually came into market, granted it was still I believe it was a body on frame, but it started actually implementing some of these more comforts and other creature comforts that you see more like in a typical car, and the driving manners improved, and ultimately that's what kind of won in the preference list of what people want from their SUVs, is more comfort, that higher driving position, definitely, but definitely comfort and some utility over actual ability to go off-road. 4Runners, on the other hand, they have kept their original recipe of basically a Toyota truck. No longer is it just a camper shell on the back. You can actually see it's a real SUV. And this one is a TRD Off-Road Premium, and it is only a 5-seater. There is no third row. I do believe they put a third row, and maybe the SR5s, maybe the Premium. I will check on that, but it's really not, I don't think it's big enough back there really for a third row. It really would be for kids. And then if you're buying it for more of a family vehicle, I don't know, there's, the Highlander's probably a better option for you, but who knows, you know, if you do need that off-road capability, then definitely the 4Runner. If you need something even bigger, the Land Cruiser, uh, are all really great options for that off-road capability. And so when I was looking for a new vehicle and it was time to get rid of my 4th gen Toyota 4Runner, I really wanted to keep these like on the list. I had driven a couple before in the past through my work trips, and I like them, but at the end of the day too, I was like, well, they're kind of expensive, and I don't like car payments. I don't, new cars are so expensive, and then the used car marketplace post 2020, they were really, really expensive and overpriced, and I'm always try to stay financially, what I call financially fit, and so dropping 40, 50, 60K on a new vehicle, new, just really was not something I was looking to do. However, in the used, so I always typically either buy like a certified pre-owned, unless it's just something that I absolutely have to have new. Maybe it's a limited edition or something I'm going to have as like a collector's item. I don't really see the, desire to purchase a brand new vehicle. You get great financing, and maybe like that's where you can save like on that depreciation expense if you pay it off quickly. Then versus if you had, not 0 or 1% financing and you're paying it all in finance, paying all that extra finance charge, then you're having like a double whammy there with depreciation and finance charges. But yeah, so I knew what my price, when I did have to get my old 4Runner, because eventually, I had that thing for over 10 years and had over 260,000 miles on it, and, knew that if I had to bite the bullet and get something newer, and at that time too, because of some of the annoying little things that started to go wrong with it, definitely no fault of the vehicle. It was just, again, getting up there almost 20 years old and over 260,000 miles, and that's just kind of what happens, especially out here in the Northeast, which I will do a video on what actually caused me to ultimately say goodbye to that old 4th gen 4Runner, which again, I loved so much. It was such a great, reliable, awesome vehicle. And then also what made me then decide to, okay, if I'm going to buy a newer vehicle, what do I want? What do we need? And ultimately landed us back here in the 4Runner family with a 5th gen Toyota 4Runner. But on that journey of looking for used vehicles, 4Runners are not cheap in the secondary marketplace. You will not find a quote-unquote good deal on a used 4Runner. Of course, there's always the exception to the rule, but 4Runners are not cheap. They hold their value. So that was another thing too, like where I'm like, if I have to purchase a newer vehicle, let me find something that is going to hold its value as much as it can, and also give me that reliability that I so loved for my 4th gen 4Runner, and that ultimately landed me again in a 5th gen 4Runner. And yeah, and so 4Runners again, they they come in a few different trim packages. I had an SR5 before, and knew I wanted something maybe a little bit nicer. What's funny too, in that used marketplace, you can find SR5s, which is their base model, going for almost the same amount as like a TRD off-road or off-road premium, which is, I ended up landing on the TRD off-road premium. So for a few grand more, I was able to find this TRD off-road premium. Ended up going through CarMax because they have such a huge dealer network, and being that this is a post-2020 vehicle, I was a little concerned with quality. Granted, as a 4Runner, but CarMax offers an amazing warranty. So with that, it was kind of a no-brainer. At the end of the day, I did look locally at local dealers for used 4Runners. They didn't really have anything on the lot, and if they were just ridiculously overpriced compared to new 4Runners. And now that I kind of had my heart set, I'm like, well, I can get a TRD off-road premium for this price. What's that cost new? I'm like, I'm not going to spend upwards of $50,000, almost $60,000 on a 4Runner. That's just not happening. So was happy to be able to find this one in my price point, which worked very, very well. And also when I was looking, I did mention that, this 5th gen came out around in 2010. it really has not changed that much in the 14-ish years that it's been on the market. So a couple little refreshes, like just one really key one that they did in 2020 was they updated the infotainment here, which again is a little bit of a joke because at the end of the day, if you've been in a Toyota and upgraded infotainment comes into the conversation, that really is, you know, kind of like a joke. It's old at the end of the day still, but it works. And that's like, again, the key thing. It works and it does what it needs to do. So they did that in 2010. They also gave it its safety suite technology. So you got adaptive cruise control. With the updated infotainment, you did get Apple CarPlay. And then, you got your lane keep assist or lane keep alert. And then also some other little goodies with that 2020 upgrade. And then with that TRD off-road premium, you get some off-road upgrades from like your SR5. And then with the premium, you get a little bit nicer. You get infotainment, navigation, also this like leatherish seating surface. It's not leather. You get power seats. What else? You get heated seats and this blacked out interior, which I do really enjoy. I think this looks a lot better than on the SR5s and below, like where it's still kind of that silver trim. It has come up in the comments, from auto reviewers that there are a lot of different pieces of trim going on here. You have like this kind of perforated material here, but overall it's such a nice high quality material though. This one has a little over 50,000 miles on it now, and compared to some of like the Fords and just other things I've driven from Avis, and again this is a one car owner vehicle versus something that's being rented daily, but it holds up so well. Like it still feels nice and tight. It's a very you can feel that quality, and like I think like if you've driven something like that feels a little bit more higher quality than something else, what I'm talking about. There's just a simple satisfaction like with like just the heft of like the steering, the switch gear and everything. It's just very has like a quality feel to it, which again you're paying for that, I believe, like when you get these 4Runners versus other options in the marketplace. So with all that, we'll go ahead and fire up our 2022 4Runner, bring it to live. Let that V6 come to life. Got a little startup graphic there. See, not too old. It's funny, if you notice there too, I always keep it on that eco indicator because if you're buying a vehicle for gas mileage, you're not buying a 4Runner. 4Runners get terrible gas mileage. It's one of the trade-offs, and it's kind of like a thing. Like with anything, you're going to have some trade-offs. Even when I purchased this 5th gen, I had to give up the V8. I love the V8 so much. Had a nice, even like engine note to it. I love a V8 at the end of the day, but they don't have the V8s and 4Runners anymore. So it was that or the Lexus. When I was cross-shopping these, it's actually funny. The Lexus does depreciate faster. So in the used market, the Lexus GX and then the Toyota 4Runners are very, very close in price when you look at miles and mileage and years, like within spitting distance of each other. And even sometimes you can get the Lexus at a better price too. However, 3 key reasons why I did not buy the Lexus. One, I think it's actually a little bit too nice for what I had intended to use the vehicle for. So we have dogs, and that's another reason, like overall, like why I've always loved 4Runners. They have this very fun party trick here. So you have this, all 4Runners have a rolling down rear window. And so for the dogs, you can see there in the back, it's something that creates some airflow for them. They love it, with the seats folded down, and just gives them a little bit more airflow back there. And also just for own utility. It's very good for, what's the word? Just being able to put like bags and groceries in there. There's a little button on the back, as you saw in the beginning there, where you can raise and lower the glass. And compared to, most say more premium SUVs, they have a power lift gate. That's something to break. In the past, they used to have like a piece of glass that actually tilted up. But that adds extra engineering, extra cost to put motors and make the glass slide up and down. So I get it why most don't do that, but I am very appreciative that they still include it in 4Runners, and it is a very nice feature to have. So getting back to that fuel mileage again. So yes, we do keep this on eco. Sorry, lost my train of thought on the Lexus. Those other reasons why I did not choose it. Sorry. It doesn't have the rear roll down glass actually. So the Lexus, it had a weird kind of just swinging door, which, okay, you know, it's something you could live with. You're not going back there every single day, but, and then overall looks of the Lexus, you know, it's always beauties within the eye of the beholder. And well, that is one beholding eye, I guess, if that makes sense, because I've never found a Lexus to be a beautiful vehicle. These 4Runners, I feel like, you know, they are designed well for their purpose. They're very rugged looking. They're very utilitarian, and the materials that they use and the design choices that they use definitely fit that aesthetic. And even exterior wise too, you get that hood scoop out there, even though it's fake, but it's always been kind of like, if you see a 4Runner driving down the road, you're like, oh yeah, they got that upgrade, like especially on the 4th gens, because they only put that on the, and you can see up there now, but they only put that hood scoop on the sport models. So that was definitely like, you knew they had a special 4Runner if they had that hood scoop out front. But so I was very excited. I was like, oh yeah, cool, they put that in the TRD you know, models, and I can finally have that special 4Runner. But what else? So there was that. So it basically looks a little bit too nice, but then the insurance was higher too, you know, on the Lexus. And that was something I was just like, well, I don't drive it that much. And yes, it's going to be more comfortable. It's going to have the V8. You know, you get a little bit badge cachet with it being a Lexus, but I take a train into work. And again, this vehicle is just for using, it's our dog hauling vehicle, and also for going to Home Depot, going to estate sales, you know, just a utility vehicle. And at the end of the day, I don't want to have dog hair or dog slobber or gravel or mulch or anything, or, you know, scuffed up interior, you know, from using it for like utility, like in something that's nice. And so I think it's always important, if you can, you know, have a vehicle like, you know, that you use for utility, a truck, or, you know, a very durable SUV or something. And then you have your fun vehicle, if you can, for fun, you know, at the end of the day. And so, oh, and lastly too, like, because that insurance is a bit higher, but then also living in Connecticut, we have personal property tax up here. So they like to tax you for anything and everything you can. And the other reason too of buying, like, you know, used, but also trying to keep that cost down as much as possible, or at least at appraised cost or valued cost, is because of that personal property tax. And I don't want to give Connecticut any more money. So that's why I didn't want to buy a brand new one, because I just don't want to give money to Connecticut arbitrarily. And since these last for so long, you know, one with 50, you know, 1,000 miles is going to be very close to one that has 0 miles on it. So all these decisions all led up to the purchase of this 5th gen Toyota 4Runner TRD Off-Road Premium. So now we started it up. Mentioned already the fuel economy. It's garbage. You can see literally, like, I've been kind of having a lead foot lately, so not the best, but overall about 15.1, you know, overall, like with in-town driving. So again, if you're buying a 4Runner and you want gas mileage, you're gonna be very, very disappointed. But I keep it on this almost all the time, just to like try to get as much gas mileage out of it as I can. And yeah, like, you know, it's a very utilitarian vehicle. You have your mirror controls over here, your interior dash lighting for the brightness there, an automatic high beam light switch there that will turn off your high beams if a car is approaching. Little inverter there, if you can see that. So basically that's useful because there's a plug in the back, so you can plug in a standard type of plug, and then run some like, you know, small electronics off of that. Funny story, I actually used it for a birthday party to fill up some balloons a few months ago, so came in handy for that. And then what else do we got? We have our steering wheel controls. So you still get modern conveniences here in your 4Runner. It's not that ancient. You still have your audio controls there, telephone controls. You have your adaptive cruise control. You know, it's actually there, but then like, you know, for the gap, and then the for your lane keep alert there. This here will go through all your menus here on your little center screen. So they give you a little bit of modernity here with a little screen here in the middle, and they modernized that a bit with that 2020 upgrade. And that was the other thing too, like a 2019 or older, which is going to be very similar body style on the outside. I don't think they really changed anything for 2020, but the interior they did modernize slightly, so the graphics are a little bit better on this little center screen. I think the dials are a little different. Again, they changed this a bit and gave you that Apple CarPlay, which again is table stakes today. And I'm like, if I'm going to be buying a new used vehicle, I have to at least have Apple CarPlay if I'm going to be spending this much money. That, you know, you're spending 20, 25, 30 grand and you don't have Apple CarPlay. It's kind of, what are you doing? So again, that's why like the 2020 or newer made the most sense. And then again, like with the you know, post 2020 and supply chain issues, why I went through CarMax. You know, they have a very extensive network, but you also get that Max Care if you choose to buy that, which hopefully I'll never need it. It's a 4Runner. They're already going to be pretty reliable, but there were some issues with the supply chains post 2020, and being a person who has a supply chain background and just a little too close to knowing like the issues that, you know, that all caused. So if there are any sourcing issues that came with putting all the parts together for this guy, then definitely do not want to be paying out of pocket for that. And that's why I went with CarMax to have that Max Care plan. So recommend that for actually anybody if you are purchasing a vehicle from those post 2020 years. Give CarMax a serious good look. Also make sure that when you are searching through there, you're purchasing a vehicle that is personal use and not fleet use or anything else. I did a little spiel on that in my Genesis video about why I would not purchase a vehicle that has had fleet use. So yeah, but anyway, getting into real quickly our infotainment, light up the screen a little bit. So it's basic. You have your navigation. You can configure this. I believe it comes in like a 4-quadrant, but I have navigation set, you know, here for my home screen. Radio, what's also kind of cool is that it has this like weather function that you get with the TRD off-road premium models. So you can basically check your local weather, or if you're traveling and for whatever reason, the weather map, it is loading. Great. It was not earlier. But if you are traveling and you don't, yes, you can pull up the weather on your phone, but you can go ahead and see along your route if there's weather along the way, and you can hopefully try and avoid that. Or, you know, if you need to pull over or something, then at least you have another little option that's in a nice big screen, you know, for you to see without having to pull out your phone. So that's kind of cool. Go here to menu. Again, it looks old. I know it is, but it works. And that's why I bought a 4Runner. Did not buy a 4Runner for a screen. If I want to buy a screen, I'll go to Best Buy. And so, or Apple or something else, you know, that's why, like, yeah, I'm not buying a vehicle for its screen. Other people might, but for me, I'm buying it for a list of other things. So basic options here, all pretty self-explanatory. What I do like is that it has these hard-coded physical buttons, you know, to kind of get directly to, so you're not having to hit that. You can directly go to apps if you wanted to. You could directly go to your menu, up to your map, and a nice home button to bring you back to that home screen too. So all super easy, good stuff. Nice, simple, analog HVAC controls here. So with that, again, something that's not going to break. I did have to get another little compromise there too, was that I did have a digital temperature control on my old SR5. It was actually kind of complicated and kind of silly, so this is much easier to use. One thing that's kind of a theme here in these 4Runners, these big chunky gauges. Even like with the door pull, it's big and chunky, so if you are out in the field or something and you have big gloves on or something, it's a lot easier to adjust this versus dealing with some little touch screen something here to adjust your fan control or your ventilation direction, trying to fiddle around with your defrosters and stuff like that. It's a nice, just big, easy to use knob there. Speaking of easy to use, which is not that easy to use in a 4Runner, but if you like off-roaders and you have used off-roading vehicles in the past, it's going to become, it's pretty intuitive. Gotta put this thing back on. Sorry, it started rattling, so I do have to get that replaced, the little knob. So we'll call it one of those 2020, post 2020 issues. Probably didn't have like the premium manufacturer or the primary sourcing partner there. But with that, getting in the four-wheel drive of the 4Runner. So real quick, all 4Runners, they come in a two-wheel drive variant, but most now all come with a part-time four-wheel drive setup. So what that means is you have to shift between two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. When you're driving around town, you're always going to be in two-wheel drive. So let's see if we can get a better angle on that. There we go. So H2, and then yeah, so it's not just a simple twist to get into four-wheel drive. What you have to do is I always shift it here into neutral, and then to get into four-wheel drive, you have to pull this down. On the Limited and SR5 models, it's an electronic switch. I actually prefer this lever here because it is a manual control. It's like linked directly to the transfer case, but when the going gets a little tough, you have to then shift it up here into 4 low. So 4 low is going to give you much better control off-road. And as you can see here on your dash, lots more things lit up for you to see, to let you know that you're in 4 low. Another fun party trick that you get with the 4Runner TRD off-road packages are all these off-road goodies up here. So this basically is going to be your off-road cruise control, and what it does is we'll keep a set speed for you all the way from low, medium, all the way up to high. Don't quote me, but I believe it's limited up to about 5 miles per hour. But what it does, it takes one less thing that you have to do while off-roading and lets the vehicle do it automatically for you. This here is going to be all your off-road terrain select. So you can see here, it pops up on the screen. We call it multi-terrain select. So you have rock, mogul, I don't know what a mogul is, we'll look it up, loose rock, but then mud, sand, and dirt. So some modern features, you know, it's not all ancient here in the Toyota 4Runners. We'll go back up here again, and then you have your traction control. All right, you're turning your traction control off. You have A-Track, which I'm not going to fully explain what that is here in this video, but it is very useful. It is basically a off-road traction control that is very, very, very good. The TFL truck, I believe, did a really awesome review on that. I'll link it in the description. And then you have your locking rear diff. Again, on these part-time setups, you only get the locking rear diff, whereas on the full-time four-wheel drive, which I believe the Limited still has that, you get a locking center diff, or at least I did on my old SR5 with the V8. So that's cool. A couple, again, I went over some compromises. So unfortunately, I did not get a sunroof in this one. It's fine. The sunroof, actually, I've driven a couple, and it does, in these 5th gens, really encroach on your headroom. And so without the sunroof, you have tons and tons of headroom, which is really awesome. And then lots of passenger room, you know, up front, lots and lots of storage, huge bin here, definitely door storage, nice big, you know, glove box, some little storages there, nice little lights, you know, for your map vanity lights, automatic dimming, rear mirrors, and your traditional little clock there. It's a little funny, there's a clock there and a clock there. This one actually will update to what time zones you're in. And yeah, so again, overall, why I bought a 4Runner and why I plan on keeping this one at least. I had the old one for over 10 years and lasted almost 20. I was not the first owner of it, but I absolutely they're such reliable, great vehicles, and I really, really hope this one here proves to be just as reliable. So far, it's been a great vehicle for us. The dogs love it. It's comfortable enough. Again, it's not going to be as comfortable as the Lexus, but insurance is cheaper. Save a little bit on that tax bill for that personal property tax to Connecticut, and also it looks better, at least in my opinion. I think the Lexuses, they can definitely do a little better in that looks department, but Toyota's not, they aren't beauties either. Some people might think some Toyotas look beautiful, but I think for being a utilitarian vehicle and for what it is, this one definitely checked all the boxes and why I purchased it. So that will wrap it up on this 5th gen Toyota 4Runner, and again, why I chose to purchase it, for our family vehicle, for the dogs and Home Depot runs. But then also, that first one was such a great, I don't want to call it a friend, but it really was. It was very reliable. It's dependable. It's, what a friend really should be. It doesn't complain. You don't have to buy birthday presents. Just give a couple oil changes here and there, and it's not going to nag at you too much. But which is why I ended up sticking with the brand and getting its next gen version. Lastly, they are updating this for 2025, and it was the other reason why I chose a pre-updated version, because I could have waited a bit and kept the old one for a little bit longer, but ultimately they're doing this a lot at Toyota now. So they're getting rid of that tried and true V6 up front, getting rid of the old 5-speed transmission, and quote unquote modernizing everything and going with a turbo 4. And they say it's for fuel mileage, and then also it might be a little bit more punchier. This 6-cylinder, it's slow. It's slow and thirsty, and people want a little bit more, I guess. They want to kind of keep up with the Joneses to a degree, and if you don't have the latest and greatest under the hood, or you gotta adhere to some fake government EPA standards, when really, there's other things that they could be going after that will have a much bigger impact than worrying about how much emissions a 4Runner puts out. But I digress. But anyway, I wasn't quite convinced that turbo 4, and Toyotas are known for their reliability, so I'm sure it's gonna be a lot more reliable than twin turbo V6 on a Ford, or any other kind of turboed anything. That if anything's gonna be, if you're gonna have a reliable turbo 4, it's gonna come from Toyota. But I think there's some hybridization maybe on some of those. It may just be on that Land Cruiser, that new one that came out too. But it's something else to break. The 6-cylinder, just a naturally aspirated V8. You just have to worry about those components attached to the block for the most part that are going to cause you the need to replace those in the future. So with and yes, you're gonna have to replace spark plugs and possibly ignition coils and things like that, but those are a lot easier and should be cheaper than you're replacing a turbo or a battery pack on a hybrid vehicle. So some of the reasons too, why I decided to wait, plus it's a brand new model run for that, and there's always a little bit of gremlins that need to be worked out in those. Toyota's already kind of experiencing that with the new Tundras, with their own twin turbo V6 having some issues, and wherever else that twin turbo V6 is used. I think it's used in the Lexus as well too, in that new GX. And so again, some growing pains there as they kind of cut over to this newer technology and get away from, you know, the kind of tried and true, you know, technology up front and, you know, in the drive line or drivetrain. So I think that will wrap it up on why I chose this 5th gen Toyota 4Runner. And again, you can see like why I have some of the opinions I do. If like I put my money where my mouth is, like gauges, not biggest fan of screens. Like they're fine, like, you know, for if they're doing what this, you know, and not taking over too many controls here. So I think that in itself is enough. I don't think you need a full screen here. And like again, I said, that's cost cutting. At the end of the day, these full digital dashes and stuff and just gimmicks. At the end of the day, like I like having physical buttons and physical controls that are actually tied to the function they're going to do, and not relying on a screen to have to do everything for you. So yeah, that's it. And then yeah, so definitely excited, like for all the adventures we're gonna have in this you know, 5th gen 4Runner. And you know, if it's anything like the ones we had in that 4th gen, then it's gonna be a really good time. So thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.